Harmony Montgomery was a 5-year-old girl from New Hampshire. She was last seen in late 2019. But here's the devastating truth. No one reported her missing until the very end of 2021, more than 2 years later. By the time authorities began investigating, it was already too late. This case shook the nation, not just because of the horror of Harmony's fate, but because of what it revealed about failure after failure, failures from the very people and systems meant to protect her. Harmony's life had never been easy. Born into instability, her parents, Crystal Sorey and Adam Montgomery, struggled with addiction and violence. Harmony bounced in and out of foster care. By early 2019, the courts decided to place her in Adam's custody, believing it would give her stability. But this choice would later prove fatal. Crystal, her mother, was terrified. She tried to sound the alarm, telling anyone who would listen that Adam was unfit. But her warnings fell on deaf ears. And so, Harmony went to live with her father and his wife, Kayla. Neighbors occasionally caught glimpses of her that year. But by the end of 2019, Harmony had disappeared from view. No school attendance, no doctor visits, no family photos, nothing. And no one asked questions. Not until Crystal, desperate and unable to reach her daughter, demanded answers in late 2021. The silence surrounding Harmony's disappearance is what makes this case so haunting. For more than 2 years, a little girl was missing, and the system didn't even notice. When police finally opened the case in late 2021, they were horrified. It wasn't just that Harmony had vanished. It was that she had been gone for over 700 days, and no official record existed to explain where she was. Crystal had been calling, begging, emailing, trying to see or even speak to her daughter. Adam always had an excuse. Sometimes he said Harmony was fine. Other times he claimed she was with relatives. But the stories never matched. By December 2021, Crystal broke. She called child services and declared, "My daughter is missing, and no one is listening." The investigation that followed exposed a chilling truth. Detectives discovered that no one, no teacher, no doctor, not even Child Protective Services had laid eyes on Harmony in more than 2 years. And then came the testimonies. Adam's estranged wife, Kayla, revealed the darkest secret. She claimed that one night in December 2019, after Harmony had a bathroom accident inside their car, Adam snapped. He beat his daughter again and again until she went silent. But instead of seeking help, Adam allegedly covered it up. He hid Harmony's body, moving it from place to place before disposing of it. To this day, her remains have never been found. By early 2022, Adam Montgomery was arrested. A year later, prosecutors charged him with second-degree murder. And in February 2024, he was convicted, sentenced to at least 56 years in prison. He showed no remorse. The horror of Harmony's story isn't only about Adam. It's about how a child could disappear for more than 2 years without anyone noticing. The courts, social workers, and child protective agencies all had opportunities to step in, but each time, they failed. And that failure cost Harmony her life. By late December 2021, after Crystal finally screamed to the system that her daughter was missing, the Manchester Police Department launched what would become one of the most haunting investigations in New Hampshire's history. At first, detectives thought this might be a simple custody issue. Maybe Adam had just taken Harmony out of state. Maybe she was living quietly with relatives. But the deeper they looked, the darker the story became. They started with the basics. School records? Nothing. Harmony hadn't been enrolled since 2019. Medical visits? None. No doctor had seen her in years. Family connections? Relatives admitted they hadn't laid eyes on her either. It was as if a 5-year-old girl had simply vanished off the face of the earth, and no one in authority had noticed until it was far too late. Detectives brought in Adam Montgomery for questioning. His response was chilling. He insisted that Harmony was fine, that she was living with her mother, Crystal. But investigators already knew that wasn't true. Crystal was the one who had sounded the alarm. Adam's wife, Kayla Montgomery, soon cracked under pressure. She told police that Harmony had been living with them in late 2019. Then, one December night, something horrific happened inside the family car. Harmony had a bathroom accident. Just a normal, childish mistake. But to Adam, it was unforgivable. Kayla described how Adam snapped in a violent rage. He punched Harmony over and over, in the head and the face, until the little girl slumped, silent and unmoving. According to Kayla, That was the moment Harmony died. But the horror didn't end there. Adam didn't call for help. He didn't rush his daughter to the hospital. Instead, investigators learned that Adam allegedly hid Harmony's body for months, moving it from place to place, terrified of being caught. At one point, police believe her remains were stored in a ceiling vent. Another time, in a cooler. Eventually, they were disposed of altogether. To this day, Harmony's body has never been found. Detectives followed every lead, tore apart every location tied to Adam, and gathered witness testimony. Each new discovery painted the same picture. Harmony had been gone since late 2019, and Adam had orchestrated a cover-up for years. In January 2022, Adam was arrested not yet for murder, but for charges tied to assault and evidence tampering. Investigators were building a bigger case, piece by piece, until they could finally prove what had really happened to Harmony Montgomery. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. It was a homicide investigation. And Adam Montgomery was at the center of it all. January 2023. The courthouse in Manchester, New Hampshire, was packed with reporters, cameras, and families holding their breath. For years, Harmony Montgomery had been a name whispered in outrage and sorrow. Now, the man accused of killing her own father, Adam Montgomery, was finally brought to face justice. But the trial wasn't simple. Remember, Harmony's body had never been found. There was no grave to point to, no DNA evidence from a crime scene. Prosecutors had to build their case on witness testimony, circumstantial evidence, and the chilling words of Adam's own wife, Kayla. In the courtroom, Kayla took the stand. Her voice shook as she described the night Harmony died inside the family's car in December 2019. She repeated the horrifying details: how Adam lost control over something as small as a bathroom accident, how his fists came down again and again on a helpless child, and how afterward he ordered her to stay silent. The jury listened in silence. Some jurors looked down, visibly shaken. Prosecutors painted Adam as a violent man with a history of abuse and unchecked anger. They told the jury that Harmony never stood a chance once the court had handed her into his custody. Defense attorneys tried to fight back. They argued that Kayla was unreliable, that she was testifying only to save herself. They pointed out the lack of a body, the lack of hard forensic proof. But the weight of evidence, the years of lies, the cover-ups, the desperate search that ended with nothing was too much to ignore. Crystal Sorey, Harmony's mother, sat in the courtroom nearly every day. She wept quietly, clutching photos of her daughter, demanding the justice she had waited far too long for. Reporters noted how she never looked at Adam, not once. And then, the verdict came. After days of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned. Adam Montgomery was found guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of assault, guilty of witness tampering, and guilty of abuse of a corpse. The courtroom fell silent as the charges were read. Crystal sobbed openly. Relief and devastation mixed in her tears. Adam, in contrast, showed little reaction. In February 2024, the judge handed down the sentence: 45 years to life in prison. It wasn't the ending anyone had prayed for, because Harmony was still gone, her body never recovered. But for the first time since 2019, there was accountability. For the first time, the system had said clearly, what happened to Harmony Montgomery was murder. The tragedy left scars across New Hampshire and across the nation. It was a reminder of what happens when warning signs are ignored, when a child slips through the cracks of the system. But in that courtroom, at least for a moment, the little girl who had been invisible for far too long was finally seen. Harmony Montgomery's story didn't end with her father's conviction. In many ways, it had only just begun, because the haunting question lingered. How could this happen? How could a 5-year-old girl vanish in 2019 and no one notice until 2021? The public demanded answers. Parents across New Hampshire and the entire country were outraged. The system that was meant to protect Harmony had failed her at every step. Investigations into the state's child protection services revealed shocking oversights. Courts had awarded custody of Harmony to Adam, despite his violent criminal history. Caseworkers failed to follow up. Red flags were ignored. For 2 long years, Harmony's absence slipped through the cracks. Politicians stood in front of cameras, promising reform. New child protection laws were drafted. There were calls for more funding, more oversight, more accountability. But to Harmony's grieving family and to the public, it all felt like too little, too late. Crystal Sorey, Harmony's mother, transformed her grief into activism. She vowed that her daughter's death would not be forgotten, that Harmony's name would stand as a warning and as a catalyst for change. She pushed for stronger child welfare checks, for mandatory reporting, for a system that could not so easily overlook a missing child. Memorials sprang up across Manchester. Community members left teddy bears, flowers, and candles. Strangers who had never met Harmony wept for her as if she were their own child. Her face, once invisible, was now on posters, murals, and vigils, a symbol of every child failed by the very institutions meant to protect them. And yet, one haunting fact remains: Harmony's body has never been found. There is no grave for Crystal to visit, no place to lay flowers. For many, that absence is the most devastating wound of all. Still, people say Harmony's story has forced America to look harder at the uncomfortable truth. Children are falling through the cracks every day. Some are saved in time. Harmony was not. The legacy of her case is not only about justice delivered in a courtroom, it's about the responsibility of a society to protect its most vulnerable. Because at the heart of this tragedy is not a headline, not a trial, not even a sentence. At the heart of it all was a little girl with bright eyes, a small smile, and a future stolen before it even had a chance to begin. Harmony Montgomery should have grown up. Instead, she became a reminder, a call to never let another child disappear, unseen, unheard, and unloved.